the Gaz and the Nobz. Now, actually, people are probably here for boys, but I think the hardcore lads have always known that Gaz has had his bully boys, which is an actually lore accurate term. Whenever Gaz shows up, he shows up with a bunch of knobs from his great Waaagh. So we're going to talk about the Nobz. Now, this is going to include the normal knobs, but also the mega knobs to a certain extent. We're going to talk about. But I actually just did some damage averages for you here, right? Because people a lot of the time were wondering, like, what is the point of the 10-man knob unit? Is it even worth bringing? Well, one thing is the knobs value is just straight up their damage, right? What they're trying to put out in straight volume to take advantage of gas and the other stratagem, you're going to see that we're going to talk about and detachments we're going to talk about. But we're going to be doing just the math based off Unbridled Carnage right now and Warhorde, right? But you do get War Boss, so you will get the -1 to wound on your unit. That makes up for the fact that Gaz, because of his bodyguards, he would be considered T5, and that whole unit is T5. So being -1 to wound helps Gaz not feel as squishy. You are paying for 10 knobs, it would be 445 point cost. That's extreme. So what am I actually punching out? What can I actually do here? But let's start off with something that people probably wondered, even though it might not be the most meta, this would be a problematic unit to take out in one shot. Looking back, would be 10 knobs plus Gaz versus a knight. It was a chaos knight with -1 damage, right? So the Knight Lancer has a 4-up invuln, and then it also has a -1 damage, which would typically be the horrible target for this unit because they're strictly all damage 2 coming from the knobs. But on average, when you pop Unbridled Carnage, so you're getting sustained 5+, critical 5+, lethal 5+, sustained 5+, like I said, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Boom, on these knobs, 29 damage, even with the -1 damage modifier on average going into this Knight Lancer, just one-shotting it straight off the table. And that's amazing because, like I said, that typically would be the worst. Is it the most meta? No, but we're pointing out at the extreme volumes you're getting that what would be considered one of its worst nightmare things to hit, it actually ends up breaking apart nasty. So I was very excited to see that. Then we go into just some let's talk about 10-man knobs, 5-man knobs versus Land Raider. So, of course, we're going to just, everybody uses this as a baseline, right? We just want to know on average what it does, while Spec Tactics does it all the time. And Land Raider with Armor of Contempt, not equivalent in point cost, but just to get its numbers down, 10 knobs on average alongside Gals will do 38 damage on average to a Land Raider. So you're essentially punching through one Land Raider, then punching through the next Land Raider behind it, even if it has built-in Armor of Contempt. I will say Gaz does a lot of that damage because of what he's able to proc. But let's say you do a 5-man knob unit, still 29.8 damage we're getting here because the knobs are still pulling in some punches and volume as well. And so you can just still punch up into big enemy vehicles with Land Raider potential and still getting 29 damage off with 5 knobs. You got 10 knobs plus Gaz into the G. What this is standing for is the Great Unclean One. So for his defensive buffs, the Great Unclean One is T12, 4-up invuln. He has 20 wounds. He has a 4-up feel no pain, and then he has access to a stratagem where he gets to re-roll save rolls of 1. So typically he's quite hard to one-shot. One of the worst things you try to one-shot in all of 40K. Typically you would ignore him, but with Gaz, you don't want to think about what do I have to ignore. You want to think about what can stand up to me, which is absolutely nothing. On average, you're putting up 21.2 damage into a Great Unclean One at his peak potential with defensive capability. He's still tanking. He's just taking that straight to the face. Now, of course, they can peak because for Feel No Pains are crazy, but the fact that you even have that potential to one-shot him is amazing. So now this goes as well. When I broke down, let's say he might not be equivalent point cost, but if someone tries to slow you down with a Deathwing Knight, for example, you still punch out at least 7 of those guys if it's Terminator and Deathwing Knights with my Armor of Contempt and -1 to wound mine. So even if they're stacking their defensive buffs, you're blending through infantry. If it's Wraiths, you're chewing through Wraiths. I think you kill about 8 Wraiths on average as well. So this is one of those units that will one-shot just about anything in 40K as for what you're bringing. Now, for its point cost, that's what you expect. That's what you want to do. But is it really way to go? And would you really take 5 knobs? That's what we're going to have to look into. But I wanted to pull up the info for what this was. Not the most popular. I did put a poll out in the Discord as for all of these units, and the knob brick did come up in, I think, third place as the most popular unit that people wanted to see and possibly use. So it did want to be talked about. And so this was the third most popular unit that people were considering taking with it. I think it's quite a very, very expensive, but I love the fact that you can stage up in the mid table inside of a wagon, disembark with this unit, and crump just absolutely anything in the game. That really has a real stage presence in the mid table that the enemy cannot try to stat check, which is or what orcs really love. You know, we really love to control that mid table presence and use our other assets to kind of play the edges and, you know, finagle the enemy into getting its back broken with one great wall. Of course, the Mandals kind of help set that up as well. Now, let's move on to another unit. Now, even though I do like this, right? It does lack the fact that it's it's a one-turn nuclear warhead, essentially, which is not typically how orcs like to play. But I did want to bring it up in factor for those kids who were wondering and focused. And of course, I do think that Blitz Brigade archetype can become quite important. So Gaz and the Nobz are part of that Blitz Brigade, and this is the stats and the facts that they have to bring to the table in Unbridled Carnage Warhorde. Another thing to check out is our sponsor, the Baron of Dice. They make high-quality custom dice. If you enjoy our content and want to show some love, check out the Baron of Dice custom dice, including Wall Tactics official dice. To support us, use our discount code in the description for 5% off because nobody likes taxes. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!